Greetings! The amount of chapters have doubled, which opened quite a lot of room for speculation. I was mostly absent from the collective insanity of the fandom for the past 4 years, so I believe my thoughts may not be as deranged as some other theories. First things first, let's deal with Susie. After everything shown in both worlds of Chapter 4, I think it becomes pretty obvious that Susie is the actual main hero of the story. Chris, and by extent the player, is just a point of view, like how Dr. Watson is just a point of view in the Sherlock Holmes novels. That is, unless the player tries to actively mess with the story in the weird route. It is Susie who goes through drastic character development in the first chapter. It is Susie who opens up to Noelle and gets her own special skill, which becomes more powerful in the later chapters. It is Susie who decides to play with Tenna and then confronts him. And it is Susie who has a whole personal secret boss fight, gets even more development, and shows responsibility because of the Undyne situation. Chris's story and the relation to the Holiday family are of course important, but it is pretty clear that the game pays just crazy amount of attention to Susie's personal growth. And then we have the prophecy, which might be not as direct as it appears to be. There is a message about a girl at last, with the image of Susie's Rootbuster. And then there is one about the second hero, who is not particularly Susie-esque. The theory here is that the actual second hero, the Lightner monster, is Noelle, who was initially supposed to go with Chris to get the choke. To this day, halfway through the game, Noelle is the only other party member you can get, and she with Katie are the only classmates who have a lot of personal history with Chris. The message about the second hero finding love applies both to Susie and Noelle. All in all, it goes like this. At last, there was a Rootbuster girl with character development. A human cage containing a soul with the power of closing the fountains. A monster. And a dark prince with an unspecified origin. Speaking of princes, so yes, isn't it kind of strange how whenever our heroes seal the fountain... Ah yes, only Chris seals the fountain, but the prophecy says that every hero can do it. They don't do it like as a pair, but rather as a trio with the rightmost person missing. As if Ralsei, the Darkner, is only a substitute for some other god-like Prince of Darkness. But who could that be? A prince without a nation? Well, have you heard about the King of Flowers? The king, who has a black shard of all things. If you beat the secret boss of the third chapter, you also get the black shard, which can be equipped by Noelle, by the way. And in the light world, it is displayed separately from the other junk, which seems to imply that the knight's sword in light world is actually a bat made out of glass. And Asgore has already fought the knight before, quite possibly in the dark world, so the secret boss will either be a tiny flower or the king himself, guarding his secrets. Now December. December is Gaster. And this is not a joke. By the way, yes, this is obviously the Roaring Knight. The knight has a snow theme and literal antlers, so they have to be someone from the holiday family. Both Des and the knight are left-handed, while Carol is right-handed, and Noelle has some dialogue about her sister having a bet, which I will find during the editing process. So unless Rudolph is left-handed, it's safe to assume that Des is the knight. Firstly, let's point one thing out. Relationships between the characters of Undertale seem to persist in Deltarune too, or maybe it's the other way around? Well, in any case, they persist. Sans is fated to befriend the divorced Toriel, Elphys is fated to have a crush on Undyne, and Bretty and Katie are fated to become soulmates, even if they jokingly hate each other. Now that we understand this, let's briefly remember the story of Gaster, a royal scientist who fell into their own creation, which was very dark, and became splattered not just across the game, but across the whole Deltaruneverse, as Gasters in both of the games are the same person. But still, there is supposed to be its own version of Gaster inside Deltarune Inner Universe, just like how it is with any other character. And Des is the person who checks out the most. She was a normal person once, but didn't calculate the risks of a very dark place, and became splattered across time and space, while also leaving followers behind. The actual Gaster, as the person who created the dark thing, reached the meta level of some sorts, and can even influence the story with his own powers. This either has already gone mad or is close to it. She is tremendously powerful in Dark World. She opens up fountains, summons titans, and has something to do with the sacrifice happening next week. So Gaster's, and by extent Soul's, end goal is to either revert Des to her normal state, or ascend her even higher. Considering that Chris seems to actually care for December and has the support of her mother Carol, while being antagonizing to the Soul, I would say that Gaster just wants to have another friend. With all of the reversals which we see happening with Chris, I think that they and Carol as a partner are the good guys. With the whole theme of freedom and puppeting by the Soul making us the bad guys. Chris mostly just goofs around. No one believed in them after chapter 1. Little to no one believed in them after chapter 2. So I say that if they are cooperating with the Knight, they have their reasons, and I will have faith in them this time. Now, going back to the Throne and Undyne, it is possible that the Knight's end goal is Asgore, the Knight, wanting to have a rematch after losing to him previously, tried to take his wife as a hostage, but then Undyne was also good enough. Chris promised to help the Knight, but they didn't want to endanger their mother in any possible way, so they sabotaged the tires to initiate Undyne's arrival. The question is, why are the Knight and Asgore rivals? Asgore says that he tried to save everyone, and this resulted in his resignation, both from the work and family. And also, just who is the angel? Well, I don't know, you tell me! The prophecy also talks about the Knight, who is December, so by the process of elimination, the angel is either Ezreal, Rudolph, or maybe it's swapped. The second hero is Death, and the angel is Noelle. Wait, doesn't that just solve everything? A girl at last. A human cage containing the soul, which can seal the fountains. A monster wielding a sword in the dark world, who is not particularly Noelle-esque, and a prince without a nation. So the overall story would go like this. The original trio has been playing with Dark Worlds for a long time. The oldest one, Ezreal, had to move out because of college, so the remaining heroes have tried to create a proxy. Ideal and forever young version of Ezreal from pure darkness, while not using any objects to make him more real. Something has gone wrong, and because of the excessive power of Dark, December became the Gaster incarnate, reaching the meta level. We can even see messages from her in the game code, and a strange limbo place, which can be accessed by donating 1225 Chromer points to the Gachapon machine. All of this noise attracted Asgore, who then felt the danger emanating from the night, and fought her in the dark world, winning in the end. Someone from the light world, possibly Toriel, has seen this, in pain and changed, running away, not returning back home after that. No one else knows about that, and thinks that Death is just a punk runaway girl. So Rudy and Carol are still in a good relationship with Asgore, even going as far as to fund his personal investigation after his resignation from the police force, which they think happened not because of him being directly involved in the death incident, but because he was careless enough to let her gone missing. Now, going back to before the fight, Chris and newly born Ralsei became aware of the meta level because of Death's transformation. Ralsei is aware of the player controlling the soul, controlling Chris. Sometimes he asks the player to divert their attention to Susie, so that he could talk to them, and well, he said himself that he knows too much. The tutorial then is obviously targeted at the player, who has the actual control over Chris and the whole party. Though it is true that during the fight, Knight doesn't go easy on Ralsei, but as cruel as it may be, Ralsei is still only a Darkner, and only Lightners have human rights. The end goal of our strange party has to do something with the power of determination. I can't say anything for certain as of right now, but it is possible that Susie embarks on her great journey specifically to get determined. Determination is dangerous, as people with malicious intent may use this power to doom everyone with the power of the fallen angel. In good hands, however, determination can help you slay the greatest foe, achieve the impossible, actually impossible. So the determined girl will save everyone with the power of compassion and achieve the true freedom, shutting down the survey program and giving the world its deserved peace. To prove my point further, I'm going to spoil Skirk's latest story quest from the hit 2020 game Genshin Impact. Now is the time to fast forward to the next chapter. So from this quest we learned a little bit more about Surtology, the master of Skirk. He conquered the abyssal power and became the strongest being on Tevat. After the cataclysm in Kandria, he decided to travel to other worlds, to find a person with power rivaling his. In one of such worlds, he found Skirk, whom he trained mercilessly so that one day she could slay him in an honest battle. I hope that the analogy here is obvious. What does One Punch Man want? A formidable opponent. But of course, mysteries don't end here. There are still quite a bunch of questions, to properly answer which we simply don't have enough information. We see Undyne's Dark World form, because it's not a mystery. We don't see Night's Light World form, because it's an important plot thing, reserved for future. And out of all other important Undertale characters, we still haven't seen Papyrus in his Light World form, despite being teased since chapter 1. And considering that, again, we are halfway through the story, Noelle is the only other party member you can get. The reason must be important. Still, we might finally meet him already next year. It's time for the final Papyrus theory. So, the order of the secret bosses seems to be the same as the order of Undertale's final bosses, but reversed. Jewel and Asgore have the theme of royalty and use the red soul attacks. Both of them are located in some sort of castle. Spamton and Metaton, well, do I even have to explain? And yeah, they use the yellow soul attacks. Both of their locations have a strong techno vibe. The night is tricky. The thing is, Hotland doesn't really have a final boss. Muffet uses the purple soul attacks, true, but she is not really canon, as she was added through Kickstarter. Unlike the absent Papyrus, she was not even referenced in any way. And she is also not, well, final. There is a whole segment after her, while other final bosses are at the very end of their locations. So I would say that the night with red soul attacks may pass, especially considering that Tena's TV world resembles Metaton shows in Hotland a lot, and I mean a lot. I can also mention Ramp here, since it's implied that they were supposed to be the secret boss, but didn't get the shard. Next are Gerson and Undyne, two Undyne heroes using green soul attacks. Both of their locations are very melancholic and are strongly tied to the lore, and they have pianino. So the Dark World of Chapter 5 is supposed to resemble Snowdin in some way, but it is also most likely that the fountain is going to be opened inside of Asgore's flower shop, and the secret boss is going to use blue soul attacks, while having some kind of resemblance to a cool bony dude. I'm not saying that it's going to be outright him, but wait a minute. A pickle? Are we going to fight a pickle?